right, welcome everybody. Hey, I am Chris Cook, live here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm Direct to Symmetry Financial Group. Welcome to everybody this week's Zoom session training call. Appreciate everybody being here and on time. We're going to go ahead and get started with it this morning and go over some news notes, basically some, actually we'll start out with our numbers for the week. I think it's what we usually start out with, bragging on the fine folks out there making it happen this past week here at Symmetry Financial. I want to make sure I get all my security settings set up correctly. Hopefully I do. If I do, great. But want to make sure, guys, wanted to cover with all of you guys, just some people going out there and making it happen this past week. Congratulations to a new writer, Timothy Harris, direct to me right now. Way to go, Timothy Harris. This past week, guys, went out and wrote 2 applications for 1571 in APV. Way to go, Tim Harris. Super proud of you, buddy. Brand new writer here in our organization, going out there and making it happen. Super excited for you on that end. Also wanted to talk about, brag a little bit on some of our part-timers out there. Part-timer Brian Hamby, he's our #1 part-timer for the week, guys. $3,263.40 in APV. I want you to think about that. If you're part-time and you wrote over 3,000 a week with us, which I think is a really good number for a part-time person, Val, that they could write here with us. If you're doing that, you're probably bringing home, what do you think, Val? $1,000, $1,300 a week part-time? Wouldn't you say, buddy?
Oh yeah. Easy. That's right.
Yeah, just based on those numbers. So congratulations to you, Brian Hamby. Looking at your numbers, man. Part-time, working 40, 50 hours a week at his current job, writing $3,263 a week here. And I know each and every week, me and him have been studying his numbers. He just keeps going up that board, keeps getting better and stronger. And proud of you, buddy, because I know you're doing that, man, and taking care of 4 kids and a wife. Just super proud of you, man, and happy Father's Day to you, Hamby. Super proud of you, buddy. Getting into our top 4 personal producers for the week. Wanted to brag on these folks. No stranger. Listen to these leaderboards. If you want, it's weird. It's like when we call out these leaderboards each week, it's like we're calling out the same people's names every week. You know what I mean? And that's good. And also a little like sad, because we also realize there's a whole nother crew of people, Val, that I think you would agree, buddy, that could be there with us, right? Each and every week. It's not luck, right? It's a process. Amateurs have goals and professionals have a process. And the reason we see some of the same people each and every week on the top of our leaderboards is because they have a process in place. So I want you to ask yourself today, like if you're out there and you're new, you're getting started with us, or you're a vet and you just hadn't got the results you wanted. I think a good thing to think is, do I have a process in place to hit these type of numbers? And if I don't, man, that's a warning sign for me. I need to call up my direct upline, my growing upline, the person that's helping me in this business, the person that I see on a leaderboard, because where are leaders located, Val?
On the leaderboard.
On the leaderboard. Yeah, it's like some people ask me, where's the leader at? Well, did I call their name out, right? You know what I mean? Do you hear their name being called out each and every week? Well, that's what leaders do. They show up on a leaderboard. So, but I want you to think, do I have with them a process in place that I'm duplicating, that I'm following? Because if I do, man, I can get these type of results. And I just want to read this out. So Elijah Carujo, way to go, buddy. $3,964 in premium. Elijah really just went full time. A lot of you, because you've heard Elijah on our leaderboards for so long now, a lot of you think Elijah's been full time with us, for a long time. And really, Elijah, I see him over there on the left-hand side, man, really just starting full time with us. That's the crazy thing about it. He's been doing coffee shop. He's had college that he finished up, all the things that you got to do when you're 23 years old and you just, got to live life, right? And I'm just so very proud of him in those type of numbers, because just getting started, 5 more applications this past week. Super proud of those numbers. But just realize, guys, if you could consistently produce 4,000 a week in premium, you're going to be bringing home $1,200, $1,500 a week in income if you consistently do that. That's pretty incredible, right? And as a 23-year-old, that's not too shabby, my friend. So not too shabby at all, buddy. We got up there, and I see you're over there drinking some coffee this morning. We got Jordan Gillum coming into #3 spot. Congratulations to you, lady. Listen to this. What about taking it another $1,000 premium above that? $4,919.16 in premium, right? Hey, what I loved about Jordan's week, it wasn't like it was super fantastic, awesome throughout the whole week. But here's what leaders do. They fight till, right? They fight till. She probably wrote the majority of that on Friday. And it's something that I often learned throughout my career, Val, and I don't know if you've learned it as well. It's like, man, as long as I kept working my process, right? As long as I kept working my process and I kept sitting in front of the amount of people that I needed to sit in front of, I was amazed at how the numbers worked out for me, right? And I really love that in Jordan's week. Like you saw that she just fell in love with the process and she kept fighting, and boom, magically you hit. You know, it's luck meeting opportunity, right? But you would never have that opportunity if you didn't keep fighting. So proud of you, Jordan. Way to go, buddy. That is really good stuff. Coming into number 2 spot, let's take it even a notch above that. We got, and listen to the application count, number 1 app count leader for the week right here. And I think this is a healthy, if you want to know where's my business, well, are you writing 5 to 10 applications a week? I think that's a great question to ask yourself if you're full-time. If you're full-time and you're not writing 5 to 10 applications a week, I dare say you probably don't have a process in place that you're consistently following. We're not beating you up. We're not browbeating you for it. It's okay. Hey, I've been there before. We just ask you, when you get off the call today, start to put in place a process that will get you 5 to 10 applications a week if you're full-time. Listen to what this guy did. 9 applications. It's Val Zarn. You're going to hear from him today. He's over there on the left-hand side. Lives out in California, living the life. $5,313.79 in premium. If you could consistently do that, guys, over a course of a year, here's what you got to know. Those numbers indicate in a 4-week month, you're writing over 20,000, right? If you look at some of the equity opportunities that we have coming up with Symmetry Financial and Val, you can even speak to just some of the phenomenal things that was announced on last week's call by our CEOs, Brian Pope, Casey Watkins, Brandon Ellison, just some of the phenomenal opportunities. If you can qualify for tier 1, or if you qualify for, say just the personal producer, that would put Val Zarn at 200,000 issue paid business for the year, which would qualify him for those producer bonuses, right? Just crazy stuff, just more income that you can make for already doing the right thing, beyond your income that you're making, beyond the impact that you're making in the community, Val, by just going out and protecting those families. Just proud of you, man. But I love the app count to that. 9 applications, and we'll say it again, 5,313 in premium. Got off the phone with this guy this morning. We're talking about our number 1 personal producer. You think about our number 1 organization, right? Leaders lead, right? That's what they do. But listen to this numbers. This guy is 24 years old. He became an agency owner in 10 months with our company. And it's because it wasn't because he was great. It was because he was great at working a process. And what he did is he fell in love with the process, and he kept continuing to do the process, and the results came. The results came through a process. 7 applications. So we finished number 2 on our app count leaderboard this past week for $7,252 in premium volume. Now, if you're doing that, guys, if you're doing that in a 4-week month, you're averaging about $28,000 a month, right? In personal production. It's a 5-week month. That's $35,000 a month. Number 1, it allows you, what I love about that and the example that Grant does for that, he takes that extra money that he's making and he's investing it back in his business and recruiting. He's invested in infrastructure. I know he's invested in staff. You with me? He's invested so much more in recruiting. So proud of you, buddy, because that's the special things that you can do if you're willing to be on a weekly leaderboard. If you're willing to be, hey, I'm coaching you. We're going to give you some specific things today. 5 to 10 applications a week is where you really want to hit that magic spot if you're full-time, okay? And if you're not getting there, certainly seek counsel so we can help you get there and give you some right things. So proud of everybody on those leaderboards. STPs, our building business leaders right here. We got Mark Neubauer, Dustin Hensley, way to go. Jared Gillum, way to go, Jared. everybody on that. These gentlemen all went out and shared the plan more than 10 times this past week. If you want to know the future of your company, if you're building a business here, look at that number and see where that is. And if you grow that number, you got an opportunity to build a business. If you don't, you probably go up for a little bit, you go down for a little bit, you go up for a little bit, you go back down for a little bit, and you're just going to be about where you are. It's okay. If that's where you want to be and you're happy, we're going to hug you. We're going to love you where you're at. But if you want to grow, realize that number has to stay above that number, and you even need to look at growing that number inside your organization. Recruiting. I want to brag on our recruiters this past week, guys. Number one, guys, he led us in personal production, and it's something that I've often found. He also led us in recruiting, but I'll get into that in a second. We got Jordan and Jared Gillum with one new recruit this past week. Way to go, Jordan and Jared Gillum. We got myself, me, and Tina. We had one new recruit. Yay, Tina Freeman. We got Mr. Val Zarn, which on the call with us today. One new recruit this past week. But like I was letting the cat out of the bag, Mr. Grant Reynolds, 2 new recruits this past week. If you did that, guys, each and every week, you're going to build a successful business, a successful organization. Just continue to grow those numbers because there's tons of people out there that need our opportunity. Also, that leads to our number 1 group of the week, which is no stranger to our leaderboards here, Grant Reynolds and their organization, 11,236. I love that the leaders in that organization do not allow themselves to get below 10,000 in a week anymore. I love that. That is awesome. Y'all don't allow it because you don't accept it anymore, and that's growth, and I love that. So really good stuff there, folks. Super, super proud of that. I know we had several other brand new writers that may have just submitted their first application. Tina's telling me they're not agency approved, so we'll be able to announce them next week, and looking forward to announcing a lot of their names next week. So we've got a lot of people growing with us right now, a lot of great opportunities. Just make sure you're taking advantage of it while you're out there. So news and notes. One quick thing, want to cover this real quick before I turn it over to my partner in crime. Key leaders, AOs, stick around. We're going to have a brief huddle up, about 20, 30 minutes right after this thing on this Zoom session. Just make sure, reminder, you guys stick around for that. New agent call tomorrow, hosted by Mr. Val Zarn. If you want to know how to get started, you're a brand new agent with us. We're hosting a new agent call where you can plug in. You can listen to all the basics that Val Zarn's going to give you, and then at the end of that call, you have time, after you've taken notes through all that, you have time to sit down and you basically one-on-one with other people watching get to ask Val Zarn questions. I'd take advantage of it. I would ask questions, and not only ask questions, but what can you apply to your business and figure out what Val's doing that you're not, right? Figure out what Val's doing that you're not. And if you can marry that, I'm telling you, super, super huge thing. I think Val in his first year here with us gave himself a 20, well, he met his income and he's making over 6 figures when he joined us. But I think his last year, he got a 20 or 30% raise. Is that right, Val?
Oh, 60%.
60%. So I'm selling yourself short, man. So give yourself a 60% raise if you want to. And keep in mind, that's from a guy that already came here making well over 6 figures. So good stuff there. And make sure you guys doing that. One other topic of note that I want to mention, it's a touchy situation. It's a touchy thing to say or talk about because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, right? I'm not going to get into it because it just is what it is. Positive or negative, there's just stuff going on everywhere. You know, we've got just a bunch of stuff. One thing that we want to, from Symmetry Financial Group, just emphasize to you guys, if you're a Symmetry Financial Group agent and you're on social media and you have Symmetry as your moniker and you're a consultant of Symmetry and you're advertising your Symmetry, one thing that we're going to ask is if you feel the need to express your opinions about certain subjects and stuff so vividly, and if you go to the point where it's offensive to a large audience, keep in mind, I'm just saying, if you're going to do that and you feel the need to express those opinions freely and often, what I would suggest is maybe don't put Symmetry as you're a consultant with Symmetry on your social status and all that stuff. It's just because it will create headaches, not only for the company, it creates headaches for us in dealing with the agents and stuff like that. So, hey, it's your choice, right? It's freedom of speech. I get it. I never want to censor anybody on anything on that. it is what it is. Everybody has an opinion right now about everything. But I'm saying if you feel the need for that, maybe you want to remove the part where you're related to symmetry on there, but also just understand if you do choose to leave symmetry on there and you say stuff that that just goes over the line or anything like that, there's implications, right? And so just be careful. All we ask, just be careful when you're saying that stuff, because either way, right? Because like I said, everybody's got an opinion. Just be careful what you do, because we want to make sure that everything's on the up and up and we're relaying a positive message to the world. Really, it's what we want to do, right? So always good to do good things, right? So that's a good thing. So with that being said, got Mr. Val Zarn on the call with me today, buddy. I know you're going to break down a little bit of the book of the month. And, you know, me and you were talking, because I think a lot of people can read this, the Ultimate Sales Training Success Guide, and they think, what's this got to do with me? Right, Val? Me and you were talking about this.
Right.
A brand new agent can get on there and they're reading it and they're like, why in the heck would they have me reading Ultimate Sales? Because it's almost like a trainer training trainers. And it's like, man, it's communication, right? It's communication. And if you can communicate clearly, what do we do when we run an appointment, Val?
Communicating. We're conveying confidence and emotion and communicating.
It's what we're doing, right, buddy? And, you know, I think you were going to even talk a segment as you break down the book of the month on that, buddy. But appreciate you being on the call. Appreciate you being the example you are, man. And you know your organization's exploding. I think you guys may be heading for another $50,000 APV month. So super excited to celebrate that with you, man. And appreciate you being on here to host book of the month for us, sir. I think you muted yourself out, buddy.
Yeah, I'll be right there. Give me 1 second, Chris. I apologize. I just got some background noise here, and I want to make sure to turn that off. All right. Perfect. That background noise should go away in just a second. Thanks, Chris, for the opportunity. My name is Val Zarn, direct to the awesome Chris and Lauren Cook, reaching out to you from sunny Southern California and enjoying the weather out here. Hopefully weather's as good at where you're at. Today it is my my privilege and honor to spend a few minutes with you and cover a portion of our book of the month. As Chris mentioned, it is called the Ultimate Sales Training Success Guide. And I would say we can drop out one of those words as well. We could say the Ultimate Sales Success Guide as well. So the way that I'm going to translate a lot of the information I'm going to be conveying today is in the context of how we can use that in our sales process, right? It does specifically talk about how to be a successful trainer. And if you take notes and apply what we're going to cover today and what's covered in depth in this book, it will affect your ability to help more people, and it will affect your bottom line in a very, very positive way. But knowing one thing and applying it are two separate things. It's like knowing how to read and not reading. It's the same thing as being illiterate. So if you haven't already got a pen, I encourage you to do that. I'm going to give you a few specific takeaways that you can apply today. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a conference call where we learned something. I learned something that day and applied it the same day or that week, and it literally made the difference between helping a client and not. So where it literally made an immediate impact on my income and my ability to support my family and protect others. So hopefully you're going to take notes and apply what you learn here today. So the second part of the book is what I'm going to be covering the first half of the second part. So part two gets into a specific process in having success in training and in sales. Chris mentioned it already, and it was one of the quotes that I had already written down. Amateurs have goals. That's right. Amateurs have goals, and professionals have a process. So what we're going to talk about today is that process. And understand in the beginning, you'll get paid for your hustle, and then you get paid for your skill. In a recent book we were just that I was just reading, I think I was rereading The Magic of Thinking Big. Kind of gets convoluted in there, but it's something that I'm applying all the time, is that as you get better at what you do, it takes less effort. It's a more focused activity, and you get better results. And it went on to say that the top producers are actually not even working as hard as the people who are are just kind of learning the process. So we're going to talk about process today. Fall in love with the process and the results will follow. So the second part of the book, second half of the book, goes over the acronym GET DEALS, GETDEALS, and I'm going to cover the first part of that and give you some specific takeaways and ideas and concepts that you can use today. So G is for goal. So it talks about setting a goal for the training. And as it relates to sales, it's basically setting a goal for the meeting, all right? Setting a goal for your appointment. So action without intention is a waste of everybody's time. So what's the goal of the training? What's the goal of our 8 minutes we have left together today? It's going to give you it is to give you some specific takeaways that you can use. So the E is for edify. Edify means to prepare the mind. So basically what that means is conveying the value in what it is that you're presenting, right? What it is that you're about to present. And another quote from the book, it says, leaders must wake people out of inertia. And this is something that I often train on with new agents when you're making calls. So this is going to be how it relates to making calls. When you catch somebody on the phone, you need to, on the E as part of one of our systems, it is also establish why you're calling, right, which is also edifying why you're calling. So taking people out of that state of inertia. So what is inertia? Very interesting word. So as it relates to physics, it says the property of matter by which it retains its state of rest or its velocity in a straight line as long as it's not acted upon an external force, right? So we've heard this a different way. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. So when you call somebody, you need to make sure that you're effectively conveying why it is that you're calling, establishing why it is that you're calling, because they're either at rest. So picture this, they're at home, they're shut down, they're watching TV, right? So they're in a sedentary state. So you need to break that inertia, right? It's an external force that we're providing on them by letting them know why we're calling is important. You asked me to call back. This is why I'm reaching out to you, and this is how I'm able to help you. What was your primary concern? We're identifying that and edifying why it is that we're calling. So E is for edifying. It's preparing the mind for what it is that you're going to present. So you're asking questions, and then what you're presenting is the opportunity to get on, for them to get onto your schedule, right? To go over the options that they had requested. So it's preparing the mind for why it is that you're calling as it relates to that. In sales, it's basically the same thing. So what it is that you're going to be presenting and how it benefits them, okay? And then the T in Get Deals is telling them how to do it. So I paraphrase, or I changed the quote that's actually in the book to one of my favorite quotes: when all else fails, try the instructions, right? Or when all else fails, read the instructions. And we say that very much in jest. So don't do it that way, right? So learn from people that have paved the road. It's like being the first person through a minefield. Not a good idea, right? What we have is a very clear path, well established, it's flat, it's leveled, everybody's kicked the rocks out of the way, and it is through a minefield, but make no mistake, the path is uphill, okay? So it's not going to be easy, but if you follow the steps that are before you, you will be successful here. It's not going to be easy, but it is inevitable. So telling them how to do it, basically, as that relates to the sales process, is taking them through it. Setting those expectations of what's next, what's next, what's next. So keeping in mind, too, that there's 3 sides to every story: what we think we say, what people heard, and what was actually said. So as we're going through the process of telling them how to do it, how we're going to help them get coverage, are we clear in the process, right? Do we set those expectations right up front? Are we setting that goal of here's where we are, here's where we're trying to get to? Are we edifying it? Are we getting a clear picture of what their why is? What's important to them? How can we help them? And are we setting that clear path as far as here's where we are, here's where we're going to get you? Right now, if something happened to you, your family would be in a really bad place. and here's what it looks like when we're all done, and here's how we're going to accomplish that today. So something to understand too in the tell process is that using visual aids increases retention rate by 400%. It talks about when you just communicate, you're only about 5% effective. When you use visual aids, you believe it or not, you only get up to about 20%, and the rest of the process tells us how to get closer up to 90% of retention, okay? So using Zoom is so important. When I first started transitioning into telesales, virtual sales, I tried it, and wasn't that successful when I tried it. It's like everything. When we try something, we're just giving ourselves permission to fail in advance. So if you're not comfortable with that process, get comfortable with that process. It's like learning anything else anew. And I promise you, once you do, you will be more effective. My sales increased dramatically. In fact, I've got up just about to where I was prior after having taken a dip. So I was at this level of efficiency. Trying to do telesales without Zoom was down here, and now I'm a lot closer to where I was. So it's so much more effective. So when you get to the T stage, which is telling, using an app like Zoom, for example, is so important. So I guess really the main three takeaways is going to be, be intentional, setting your goal. It's like the GPS in your car says, okay, what's the first thing they need to know, right? Where you are before it can tell you where to go. So setting the goal of your call, right, or the goal of your training, or the goal of your meeting, whether it's an appointment or setting an appointment. What's the goal? What's the goal of your interaction with them? Edifying why it is that you are having this interaction, what they are going to get out of it, and then be clear and specific as far as telling them how to do it, how to get from A to B. So with that, Chris, I'm going to kind of bounce it back to you. Hopefully you guys got some specific takeaways. That was the goal of the training. And I'll kick it right back to you, Chris.
Yeah, well, I say let's take a minute here, to speak to that. You talked about, obviously we've all been going through the COVID and certainly a restructuring of how our business works from all in person to, at first we were doing a mixture of telesales and Zoom sessions, and certainly we've been developing metrics, right? So certain metrics have been developed in that. So if you will speak to it again, so you had a certain percentage, like you were doing it all telesales, mostly telesales, right? You did
right.
that. And then you're saying as you've integrated more of the Zoom back in, you've seen your sales increase. Is that what you were saying? I just want to make sure we're translating.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I went, it was literally the night and day. It was the difference between being ineffective and effective.
Right. So what do you think, what's some key points to take away from, say, we talk about effectiveness, right? What me and you are communicating about right now is effectiveness in essentially helping a client, right? So what do you think some value points that you could mention that you've noticed in the different way that people have received you when you've been communicating to them, the difference between telesales and Zoom? Can you speak to that?
Sure. Well, 93% of communication is a nonverbal. So you're severely handicapping yourself if you're doing it only over the phone. So by a large margin, okay? So I would say half the time they can only see me. They choose not to use video, and that's fine. I can recall back to one of my first Zoom first Zoom appointments and first clients I helped via Zoom. I could see that they were sitting there as I conveyed the information, and I could see that they were looking at their notes, right? So this is easy to absorb this information, absorb this nonverbal communication when you're in person, but you can't see that when you're not. So, Chris, selling takes place when you're talking. Buying takes place in the silence. So on the phone, it's a little bit different. I'll tell you, Chris, I promise you this, and I'm a professional salesperson. If you ask me what I do, I'm a professional salesperson. So I do not fear the silence. I will sit there as long as it takes. Right? There's a terrible saying and true, but yeah, there's a terrible saying but true. He who speaks first loses. It's a terrible saying, but there's some context to it, right? So when you're on the phone and there's that silence, you're wondering, what the heck did they hang up on me? Sometimes, but all they're doing is thinking. They're absorbing the information. They're actually buying, they're processing. Check this out, Chris. They are thinking about, they're truly thinking about, not the other proverbial think about. They're truly thinking about and processing the information that you gave them. So it's really hard to get that just over the phone.
Yeah, no, and I love that you speak to that. It's that, just eyeball to eyeball. And then, like you said, because I've ran appointments where I still don't see the client, and that's okay, but at least they see you. At the very least, you realize
Right.
that they are seeing you. They're looking at you, and you're communicating a lot of ways to them, just in the ways that your mannerism is going about. So I hope everybody took a couple of notes on that. 93% of communication is nonverbal. So just think about how more effective you could be if you convert more of your telesales into Zoom sessions. I'm just saying, it's certainly right. What do you think the percentage now of your appointments that you run are telesales versus Zoom?
I would say probably 75% Zoom, to where they could at least see me. I'm attempting to set it up 100% of the time, but
Right.
75% I'm effective in doing that, to where we do actually have a Zoom session to where at least they could see me.
Yeah. So I think everybody, if you're out there taking notes, I think an easy thing for you to write down right now is, can you get it to 75% of your appointments, right? Wouldn't you think, Val? Wouldn't that be a good key indicator, a
Absolutely.
bullet point that they could take away from it? And if they can get that to 75%, keep in mind, if you're writing Balzarn type numbers, 7,000 plus a week in APV, it's I'm sure profitability comes at those levels. Anything you want to speak to in that before we let people go?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it like, if you look at numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, you look at the metrics. If you can increase every metric by 10%, your profitability literally can go up 100. And that doesn't seem to make sense, but if you really crunch the numbers, because once your expenses are met, the rest is profit. So if your expenses are 10 and you're producing 11, to double your profit, all you have to produce is one more unit, right? So if your expenses are 10, you're producing 11. If you produce 12, you've increased your profit by double. Okay.
Right.
So making these little tweaks can just make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time this morning. Thank everybody for your time
You bet.
today. Key leader, agency owner, if you guys stick around just for a few minutes, got a brief huddle up with you guys, and let's make sure, hey, everybody out there, reach out to everybody, reach out to your upline this week. Let's put a process in place for everybody to go out there and be successful here. That's what people like Balzarn are doing right now. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, buddy.
You bet. I appreciate you.
All right. So everybody else, just take a minute. You can go ahead and log off, and key leaders, agency owners, stick around for just a minute. We'll get cranking and we'll move on.